Hi everybody and welcome to Gerard Family Wreaths. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Poof deco mesh base. There are different types of wreath bases that you can make. This kind that we are going to show you today is a Poof base on an elevated 4-ring 16-inch wire wreath frame. So to get started, what I typically use are the Chanel stems or pipe cleaners. They're called different things depending on where you're from. And what I like to do is in between each section here on the wreath frame, you can see that there are 4 wires in between 2 wires here. So I do 4 on the in between each section. I do 2 on the second bar, I do 2 on the third bar, and then I leave the top bar and the bottom bar open just because it seems to help me with the support that the poofs need when I'm working around with my ribbon. Today we are not going to show you the ribbon. I'm just going to show you just how to make the base. And so when I go through with my, I call them pipe cleaners, I give them a good twist. And I'm going to go through here and put 2 on this second ring. And I'm going to put 2 on this third ring. And I try and stagger them as best as possible. So as I'm working around, you'll see that I have one kind of close to this bar, and then one in the middle, and then one a little bit closer to this bar here, and then one in the middle of these 2 on the bar above it. So I've already went through, I'm doing 2 at a time here, just to kind of speed things up, but I've already went through and did most of the base just to kind of speed up the video a little bit. So this is what it should look like before you start putting on any of your mesh. And we have all of our sections that have 4 in between each, all are staggered. So we have our 2, and then we have our 2, working around 2 and our 2. So that's how we're going to start our base. And like I said, there's different types of bases that you can do. You can do a poof base, you can do a ruffle, and we'll do different videos on those later on, or you can do a twist, which I typically use as accents. I don't use them as my whole base, but a lot of people do. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my mesh, and I chose black just because I'm using a black base. This is a really gorgeous mesh here. We just got a case of this in, so if you like what you see after this is done, please make sure that you check it out. This is a great mesh for St. Patrick's Day, New Year's, weddings, celebration. So what I'm doing is this is a 21-inch black mesh with silver foil. I'm dropping it down to the ground. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to accordion this. So every poof that I make, I always make sure that my seams are faced down. So this is downward faced, and I'm just taking my thumb and I'm pinching it, and then I'm bringing it up with my other hand and I'm pinching it. Bringing it up with my other hand and pinching it, bringing it up with my other hand and pinching it. So both of my ends are faced down. If they're not faced down, you're gonna have an uneven looking type of poof. And some people just like to gather them up and just push them in there. I found out that when I was first starting that I did not have a lot of success with the way how my poofs looked, because I was just gathering and bunching them. That's something that you probably will do after you kind of have been doing this for a little while. So what I did was I put this in a twist that was close to a bar to where I could just pull it right here and it's not going to go anywhere. So if you grab your stems, you come down to where about your elbow is, that's about 12 inches. And that's about how big I want my poofs to be all the way around, because another problem that I found was that my poofs were uneven. So I want them to all be as even as possible. You can use a ruler, or you can use a cutting mat to measure out your 12 inches. But I just like to kind of do things the quick and efficient way, is by grabbing this, kind of measuring down to where my elbow was at, and then kind of just coming down to where my elbow was. And then again, I'm downward on this edge here, and I'm just gathering all of my mesh with one hand. So I'm pushing it up with my 4 fingers and I'm grabbing it with my thumb, until I'm about at my 12 inches and everything is facing down on each end, and I'm pushing into this second twist here, and I'm moving my hand out of the way and giving it a good twist. So this doesn't look like what you would really want it to look like, so what I would do here is grab everything and just kind of pull it all apart so that it kind of makes this S shape. So moving into the next one, coming down to the 12 inches, pushing this pipe cleaner out of the way with my thumb on my left hand. I'm grabbing the base here with my other hand, with my left. Because I am right-handed, it makes it easier. So I'm going counterclockwise, and I'm working my inner ring first. So I'm just gonna start moving along here, and I'll kind of follow up with it again. Moving it with putting my hand underneath, moving this out of the way with my thumb, coming down about 12 inches, gathering. This is face down, this is face down on both sides. Putting it into my twist and giving it a good twist here. I'm going to keep showing you this again until I get about halfway around. Giving a good twist. Gathering everything with my left hand, fluffing it out with my right, and just kind of holding it lightly, almost loosely with my left hand, just to kind of guide it. And I know I'm not really doing I'm not grabbing it and coming down 12 inches down to my elbow. I know I've been doing this for a little while, so I kind of know where my 12 inches is at. Just for the sake of the video, I'll show you again. So here I'm holding this, coming down to my elbow right here. Giving a good poof, giving it a good twist, gathering it, and fluffing it all the way around. Moving this one out of the way. Giving good fluff. Coming down about 12 inches. Moving it out of the way with my left, grabbing my base with my left 4 fingers. A lot of people do seem to just grab it and just throw it in, and if you can do that, then great. I could never do it like that. My poofs ended up just looking all kinds of crazy. They were big, they were small, they were not even, they were not fluffing right. They looked a little ridiculous when I first started doing it, and I found after a lot of practice that this is the best way to do it. And there are other frames out there that are pre-welded, where they have the twists already on there. We do carry those as well. And those are 3-ring and elevated as well. We'll do another video on our frames, different types of frames you're supposed to use for different types of wreaths. Okay, so here I'm going to kind of stop and show you really quick. So I'm at my 2 intersections here pretty much to where I started and where I stopped. So I am going to come back down, do my 12. I'm going to reopen this twist. If you can come in and see this. I'm reopening this. And I am going to put this poof back in. So I'm connecting my first inner ring. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather everything. So again, everything is face down. So this outer seam and this inner seam here, everything is going to come, and I am going to make sure that in between my bars, where my bar is at, this twist that I put on here, I'm at the one that's closest to the bar. I'm going to drop it straight down. And I'm tying it. I'm giving it a good tie because now I'm going to start working on my outer ring. So I don't have to move this twist too much, because when I had set them up originally, I had set them up to be the staggered. So even though I dropped this one straight down, this one's gonna be, it's gonna blend fine. There's not gonna be any issues with it. And I'm coming into this one. This one's slid a little bit, so I'm gonna make sure it's in the middle of this poof here that's on the top ring. Oops, I lost it. We gotta put it back in. Hang on one second. Didn't tie it tight enough. My twist wasn't twisted enough. All right. So now we're coming back in the middle of where this top poof is, giving it a good twist and fluffing it just like we did the top one. Everything's gathered up with 4 fingers, and we're just pulling everything, bunching it up. We're grabbing everything lightly with our left hand and kind of just fluffing it all out with our right. This one, we're just pulling it into the middle of where this top poof is. And fluffing it. And again, like I said, so there's other frames that you can use that are pre-welded on here. Those ones typically are on 3-ring frames, and they are on the innermost ring and the outermost ring. With those, they do not move. They don't slide like how these do. When I started doing this, I started doing them on these and I got used to it. So now it's just how I do it, and I just make sure that I have the other kind of frames available for all of you. And those ones you can make your poofs on and not have any problems with them rolling in or rolling out. If I were to put the pipe cleaners on the innermost ring or on the outermost ring, I would end up having the poofs roll in or roll out. So now that I do them like this, I find that my poofs kind of like sit on this outer ring, or they sit on the innermost ring. So when I put on my ribbon, I don't have any issues. And this is just kind of how Gerard Family Wreaths does it. You know, everybody has their own method, their own way of doing things. But if you're interested in how we do them, just because we have had quite a success with this, the way how we kind of go about it with the symmetrics and making sure that everything looks symmetrical. So we make sure we always do on the inner ring, because we're doing the 4 and the 4, or I'm sorry, the 2 and the 2 in between each set. We have 12 twists on the inside, 12 twists on the outside. They're never one right on top of another. It's always every other. And our poofs are always the exact same length, and they're always face down. They're never looking crazy. And all of our poofs are fluffed. So they're all in that S shape. And it looks like we got a roll of mesh that was mended, which you will find. So fortunately, it's on our very last poof here. So what I'm going to do, actually, it's kind of good that this happened right here, just so that I can show you what happens if you do get this, because this is from the manufacturer. This is not from us. It's not on every roll. And this does happen one in every, I would say probably one in every 50. But so I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to cut this as close as I can and just kind of seam that off so you can see there's an opening here. And actually, so when you're making a mesh poof wreath, if you have one roll of mesh and you end up going into another roll of mesh, you don't want to waste your mesh and you want to use what's left on your roll and then start a new roll so that you have extra, you can get 3 wreaths out of 2 rolls of 21-inch mesh. So I'm just going to connect this in. So the old roll is done. This is the new roll here. And you can see it's not even. So I'm just going to take my scissors. I'm just going to kind of cut across this to make it as even as I can. I'm going to start over. And I'm going to start where I ended. So I'm just opening this back up. I'm going to go into here. And then I'll show you how to finish this off. Okay, so I'm throwing in my last twist here. And I'm going to cut this. I'm just going to gather everything. Okay, so nobody wants this, obviously, on the wreath, and nobody wants this on the wreath. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this here, and we are going to gather it all up, pull it down, and we're going to pull our next twist, our next poof up, and we're going to push this over, and we're just going to tuck it under. And we're going to do the same thing with where we connected it. So we're pulling this down. You can see that there. And we're going to tuck this under and make sure that it's twisted well. And then here we have our finished product. So this is our base. And this is what we're going to put our twists on. This is what we're going to put our ribbon on, any of our tubing, our signs. And like I said, we did just get a case of this in. If you would, or if you're interested in any of this, hopefully you learned something out of the video today. If you did not, please let us know so that we can show you other angles or any other details that you might want to know. And we will be doing another couple of videos on the different types of mesh bases, the different types of frames, maybe a couple of garland videos, or some centerpiece videos. If you're interested, just let us know. Please make sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe, and we are happy to help you with whatever you need.